Welcome to the Highly Recommended, Stories of People Worth Knowing. I'm Becky Perry, and every episode I sit down with someone who is quietly extraordinary, the kind of person you'd never know about unless you took the time to listen, because the most remarkable stories aren't always the loudest ones. My guest today spent more than 60 years in the oil industry, as a driller, a producer, and for 7 of those years as a Hellfighter. That's the person you call when an oil catches fire and nothing else will stop it. He has never once boasted about any of it, but the work he and those like him have done quietly, in fields most of us will never see, is part of the reason we can drive our cars, heat our homes, and keep the lights on. Mike Shellman is highly recommended. Michael Shellman, welcome to the Highly Recommended. Thanks for being here.
Becky, thank you. I am so honored. I'm just thrilled to be here.
The honor is mine. We've got, what do we have here? You have brought for us to drink some whiskey out of some Red Adair Co. cups. So with that being said, should we christen the podcast and get ourselves started?
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
This is great. It's kind of early to be drinking, but it's Oilfield. We can do whatever we want to do.
It's an Oilfield breakfast then.
That's right.
That's good whiskey.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so you were literally born into the oil fields in South Texas. Tell me what that world was like for you as a kid.
Well, I was my father's only son, so when I was old enough to walk, I was pretty much old enough to work. And I began working in the oil field when I was just a little boy. One of the first things my dad had me do was paint.
Okay.
And I would paint cattle guards and paint tanks and all kinds of things, and I would get more paint on me than anything else. But I remember he used to, on the way home, he would put me in the back of the pickup because I was so dirty. He didn't want me sitting in front with him.
Well, painting is probably a lot less dangerous than tailing out sucker rods, which you were doing by age 6. Kind of explain to me, 1, what that means, and 2, doing that as a 6-year-old.
Well, so I graduated from painting and grunt work, so to speak, to actually working on one of my father's workover rigs. And sucker rods are just long, 25-foot continuous pieces of steel that are screwed together and go down hole in the bottom of the well and move the pump up and down. So when you see the pump jack going up and down, it's moving the rods up and down, and there's a pump down in the bottom of the well that's moving the fluid up. So sometimes that pump would have to be replaced, and it was my job as a little 6-year-old to a roughneck would break the rods out and hand it to me, and I would just walk it out on the end of the pipe rack and drop it, and then come back, get another one.
At 6 years old, how heavy were those?
They weren't very heavy. They were very light.
Like ballpark, how many pounds do you think?
Oh, I think a sucker rod probably weighs 20 pounds, 25 pounds at the most.
Still at 6, that's pretty heavy. So you're walking those back and forth, and those end up, connecting to go down in to pull the oil out of the well.
Yeah. But that was a good job for me because it didn't take a lot of thought, and I was useful, and that's what my dad wanted me to be. He wanted me to be very useful, and that I was. And then from there, I graduated on up to bigger and better things.
What came after 6 years old?
Well, when I got to be 10, I could start actually wrenching the rods, breaking the rods out. And I was still not big enough to do that over the top of the wellhead, so sometimes I would have to stand on boards to be able to reach over the top and break the rod out, and then you'd spin it out, and then I would pick it up, and I would tail it out myself. So then I'd come back, and I'd break another rod out and tail it. So my workload increased significantly the older I got.
The bigger, the stronger, the more you could do.
That's right.
So for those that don't really understand what goes into drilling, and there's probably way more that you could explain in the time even that we have, but we went from 6 years old, you're handing the sucker rods or the tailor rods out to someone to then go... layman's terms, what is happening when you're actually drilling a hole and all the pieces that come together? Because I've seen videos, I think a lot of people have seen videos of roughnecks throwing chain. Like, if you could walk through just what happens when you're actually getting down into the ground to be able to pull it out.
Well, it's complicated.
Yeah.
But so I graduated from small workover rigs where we were simply pulling pumps and tailing out rods to big drilling rigs. My father was a drilling contractor. And I eventually moved up into a drilling rig and started working on the floor with men that were 4 and 5 times my age. And we were spinning chains and throwing tongs and setting slips. And the drilling rig is much, much bigger and much more dangerous. Instead of a sucker rod that's 5/8 inches in diameter.
And 25 pounds.
Yeah, a 4.5 to 5 inch drill pipe is 30 feet long and can weigh 350 pounds. And so all that's gets to be more dangerous. You have to get stronger and stronger or work smarter in my case.
And so correct me if I'm wrong. When I've seen the videos of people throwing the chain wraps around to then screw 2 pieces of pipe together. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, that's
okay,
that's basically right. That's basically right. So in the old days, that's how we would spin the pipe up with a chain. You would take this long piece of chain and be able to throw it just right, just kind of like you'd dally around a horn on a saddle if you were roping a calf.
Oh.
You throw it on the drill pipe so it spins around a couple of times, and the driller engages the clutch and spins the chain, and it spins the pipe, makes it all up kind of tight, and then you have to put tongs on it to tighten it up real tight. A big bridge is
because what is it? Steel.
Yeah, it's steel.
Yeah.
So that's what throwing a spinning chain is about. It's about just screwing 2 joints of drill pipe together.
And there's a technique, like there's a flick of the wrist.
Oh yeah, it has to be. You have to get about 6 or 7 loops on the drill pipe to be able to spin it all the way up. And then when he's pulling the chain, you have to hold the chain and let it slide off the drill pipe without losing your fingers, which happens most of the time, but lots of
most of the time. So a lot of people that do this job,
a lot of men lose their fingers. Yeah,
really?
You just get if you're working in the night and late at night and been up for 2 or 3 days, you get careless. And when you throw a spinning chain and you're trying to guide it off the drill pipe, it's easy to get your finger caught up underneath it and gone.
And it's normal to be working long hours into the night.
On a drilling rig, the shifts are usually 8 to 12 hours each.
8 to 12 hours. And there's one person dedicated, for example, to just throwing chain the whole time? Or do you kind of rotate with some of the other guys?
Rotated off,
different jobs?
Off and on, doing that.
Okay.
You pull the drill pipe out up through the derrick, and then you have to set slips, and then you have to break it out and spin it, and then all the drill pipe is stood back in the derrick, so you have to push it over there and stack it.
What's the derrick? That's where it's stacked?
The derrick is the tall tower where all the... And so for a roughneck, when you eventually move off the drilling rig floor, throwing a spinning chain and using tongs, you go up in the derrick. And
the derrick is where you would pull a long piece of pipe up,
right?
Throw the chain around, spin it, it right. Screws to another one that's weighting down in the hole, and then that one goes down and another one comes up into it?
That's right.
Okay.
And there has to be somebody up in the derrick to unlatch the pipe.
Once it's that it can...
And stand it back in what we call a monkey board or racking board. And then the block comes down and you grab another piece of drill pipe and pull it up the derrick. And the derrick hand up there up on top unlatches it and stands it back. So
has anybody ever not latched it correctly and a pipe came crashing down?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then they get their ass handed to them.
Yeah, bad things happen. But derrick hands usually have it pretty easy. They don't work as hard as floor hands, but
you're going to get some pushback, I'm sure, in the comments on that. Derrick hands, derrick hands, and chain throwers are going to be competing against each other, I'm sure.
I was a derrick hand for a long time, a very young derrick hand, and I missed some latches. Sure, I missed a few, and the thing that I remember most about being a derrick hand is how cold it was in the winter. I worked out in West Texas and in Wyoming on drilling rigs, and if you're working during the winter and you're up there 90 feet above the floor,
It's cold.
it's very cold. The wind is blowing 50 miles an hour and it's
And you're up
minus
there
15.
for
Yeah.
8 hours, 12 hours.
Yeah. You can't, you take some water up with you and your lunch, and you better be warm enough because you're not going to, you can't call a timeout and say, I'm cold, I want to come down.
You're right. Yeah,
Right.
you're going to get your ass handed to you for that too.
That's right.
So everybody that kind of works on the drilling rig, they know how to do, they might be specialized in one task. There might be one guy who's the best at throwing chain, but he also knows how to be up in the derrick.
He does. It's an advancement to move up into derrick. A derrick hand will usually get paid $1 more an hour than a floor hand.
And he's paid his dues having been on the floor.
On the floor. That's
Okay.
right. He's earned his
Rite of
status,
passage.
his rite of passage as a derrick hand.
Okay.
And then the next step out of the derrick is to actually move back down to the floor as a driller, where you're running the whole rig yourself, operating all the everything.
So that's more of a management position.
Yes. And when you become a driller, then it's sort of your duty to watch over everything, make sure everything's working safely. Nobody's doing something really stupid that's going to get them hurt.
So when you think about your time drilling and being on these 1,500 horsepower rigs, is there a particular story that comes to mind, first thing that comes in your memory that you've experienced being that? Like, obviously being a derrick, you remember having dropped the pipe a couple times. What story is the first one that comes to mind to you as the most memorable?
Well, I think it working on a drilling rig can become so routine and mundane that you basically are doing the same things over and over again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until the well is finished. I think the most memorable things I remember about drilling operation were people that got hurt and
Lost a finger or
smashed a finger or lost a hand or fell or had something fall on them. Those weren't good memories, but they were memories. Nevertheless, it's all very dangerous. You're talking about a lot of really heavy iron, and everything's moving. There's lots of moving parts, and it's easy to have a brain fart and make a mistake, so to speak. And,
My goodness.
So those are and I don't want to go into that because some of them can be very gruesome, but yeah.
Yeah, I understand. It must be tough because, like you said, when you're doing 8 hours, 12 hours a day for weeks on end, you do start to feel like you get into a rhythm and then you get comfortable, and that's when the mistakes are made when you're not alert, right?
That's exactly right. I mean, one of the first drilling rigs I worked on as a young man, the stairs walking up to the floor where we had to start working, there was a big sign above the stairs. It said, "Engage brain."
Wow.
And so
kind of funny, but that's, I mean, a good reminder. Like, yeah.
But you had to. You were entering the danger zone, so to speak, and you really had to be thinking about what you were doing all the time. It's one thing to do all the right things yourself, but then you have to keep an eye on the guy next to you and make sure that he doesn't hurt you.
Yeah.
And that's the most common problem, that
right?
Somebody next to you will do something stupid and hurt you. So
yeah,
that's what I remember most about drilling rigs and the long hours and having to be away from home a lot and stay in dumpy hotels, motels, and is very hard work.
Well, thank you, because it's the work that runs our entire world, really.
Well, it's different these days. I mean, than back when I did it 50 years ago. Things are safer. Things are more automated today than they were 50 years ago.
Sure.
Takes a lot of the danger out of it. But back in the day, it was pretty dangerous work. You had to be pretty tough to.
Well, it's called roughneck for a reason.
That's right.
Right?
That's exactly right. We thought we were pretty rough.
Well, you were.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So, transitioning from that, you eventually became a Hellfighter, which, for those that don't know, that is an oil well firefighter. And from what I understand, that's considered special ops of the oil industry. It's nearly impossible to get invited to do it, and you can die doing it. So, how did you get into that? How did you get that call?
It was a calling. I think that my having grown up in the oil field, I was around pressure quite a bit, and my father had a number of blowouts on his rigs, and he insisted that I be involved in that even at a very young age, and so pressure never scared me for some reason. It can be terrifying and scares a lot of people to death, but for some reason I was always drawn to it and kind of amazed by it, and so it never scared me very much. So
You're the calm in the storm.
yeah, I was able to. The thing about a blowing well that's out of control, it's sort of unique. It's isolated to the well. It's not going to, generally speaking, it's not going to get worse.
Mhm.
Often they do get worse, but it's not, for instance, it's like being an urban building firefighter where you go into a building and you've got
And it
things,
can spread.
spread and falling in on top of you. The pressure that you had to be concerned about was right there from the well, and so once you got over that and were able to tell yourself that it's probably not going to get a whole lot worse than this, and it's isolated to this one little area, then it doesn't scare you as much as it does a lot of people.
Mm.
So
So you knew you could handle the pressure. Did you reach out to oil well firefighting companies, or how did you get that invitation?
well, when I ran away from home, so to speak, and started working on drilling rigs for other people other than my father, I was a driller. I was a very young driller, and managing the rig operations and the safety of all the other men that were on the floor and in the derrick. And we had a number of blowouts. We lost control of a well not infrequently. I mean, it's just it happens. You take all the precautions that you need to make sure that it doesn't happen, but it happens. And so when the rigs that I worked on we would lose surface control or they would catch fire or something like that, we would always call, back in the day, mostly Red Adair. He was the well control expert of choice. And Red Adair had two men working for him at the time, a man named Boots Hansen and another man named Coots Matthews. And Red and Boots and Coots stayed together as the Red Adair Company for 20 years. And they were the world's premier well control team. So almost anybody that had a problem would call Red. And often these three men would come to a blowout all by themselves.
Really, just the three of them, just to assess it? And
yes, or just by themselves, just single men, just Boots, for instance, would come, and because Coots and Red were on other jobs somewhere. And then the blowout control man, whoever that was, would have to solicit help from all the roughnecks. he couldn't do it all himself, so he would need help.
Wow.
And I always volunteered because it interested me. I wasn't afraid of it. Um, the the nastier it was, the more frightening it was, the more fun I thought it was, actually.
You have
And
to have a
so
very unique frame of mind for that.
I got to work with Red Adair once, and then I worked with Coots Matthews twice as a young man in my early 20s on big blowouts. And Coots actually remembered me from years later. He and I got to be pretty good friends.
He remembered you from when he came to a blowout that you were working.
Yeah,
that site.
and as it happened about 20 years after I first worked with Coots, I had my own blowout. And it was a job for Conoco Phillips, and Conoco wanted Red Adair and Boots and Coots to come out. So I called Coots and asked him to come out on this job for me for Conoco. And he remembered my name, which was something, and that would later pay off because eventually Coots hired me years later to work for Boots and Coots Incorporated as a part-time well control hand. And I think one of the reasons that Coots and I hit it off one time, I remember this job very well. We were under this big rig floor, and the well was hissing, and there was a lot of pressure on it. And Coots and I were up under the floor trying to tighten some bolts to stop the leak. And it was just he and I up under there with a hammer and a hammer wrench and trying to tighten these bolts. And while we were down under the floor, the rotary hose on the drill pipe broke.
Oh, no.
It had like 4,000 PSI on the hose. And when it broke, it ruptured and just boom, made a loud, horribly loud noise. And the hose started blowing up and down the derrick and blowing gas everywhere.
Oh, my goodness, that's terrifying.
And it filled the bottom of the rig floor with gas. And probably under normal circumstances, I would have hauled ass out of there when that happened, but I didn't. I stayed. And when the gas all cleared away, I looked across the stack, and Coots was standing there, and he was smiling at me.
You were the two that stayed. Everybody else ran.
Yeah.
So he thought, okay, this guy's got balls of steel.
Yeah, I think maybe I hope that's what he thought.
Well, sure.
Because I'll never forget that grin that he gave me. Like, he just
it was like, okay,
okay.
I see you.
Yeah.
We're in this.
Yeah, we're in this together. So when that job was over, there were a lot of people helping us with that job. But when the job was over, I got all the Red Adair stuff. Because they would always carry in the back of their cars, they would carry caps and jackets and stickers, hard hat stickers and patches, and then when the job was over, they'd hand all this out to. But when this job was over, well, Coots and I talked for a while, and he said, "Come over to the car. I got to give you some stuff." And there were some other guys hanging around, and they said, "Well, I want some too, Coots." And Coots said, "No, Mike's the only one getting this
y'all
stuff."
ran.
Yeah.
Michael had the courage to stay.
So I got all the goodies from that. And, but
so the rest is history. So you became a Hellfighter, and he invited you to join. And
I stayed in touch with him. He was my hero.
Okay.
Coots was my hero. He was so
in that world, Boots and Coots, Red Adair's world, what's the culture like amongst those people?
Well, it's very unique. And I would say that all of those, that Red and Boots and particularly Coots, they were all very, very colorful, to use that word loosely, very tough individuals that emitted this sort of confidence in themselves and the work that they chose to do, and you were drawn to that, and they boy, could they have fun when the job was over. They were, I think, they could drink and carry on like nobody's business, and I was kind of drawn to that as well. And so it's a very special industry, the well control industry. I think at any given time, there's probably no more than 40 people in the whole world that do that sort of work. There may be 50 max, and they'll be divided between 3 or 4 companies. 3 companies will be based in Houston, and there might be another company in Singapore or something like that. But not very many people know how to do that work. And not very many people want to do that kind of work because it's pretty scary. And so to have been invited to work for a prestigious company like Boots and Coots Incorporated was one of the greatest honors of my life. I mean, I still consider it a great honor.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I mentioned before, I think the analogy is like it's the special ops of the oil industry. And I imagine there's a lot of camaraderie in that because it is so few people that can do it, and because you are putting your life at risk. And with that, putting your life at risk for people who've never thought about it, what actually happens when an oil catches fire? What are you walking into? What does it feel like when you're that close to a spewing well with natural gas and oil and everything coming out?
Can be scary. No 2 wells are the same. When you get called on a blowout, the company that's calling you, they give you a little heads up on what to expect. But once you get to the well, it's never like they say it is. It's always something different. It's either a lot easier than you thought it was going to be, or it's going to be it's a lot harder. And so the thing that's different when a drilling rig is on a well that blows out, usually the drilling rig will burn down or collapse in the heat. And so,
how hot does it get? Like 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, right? And that's enough to melt the metal that is.
Oh yeah, gas fires oil fires are much hotter than gas fires. Gas fires in their core can be 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, but an oil well fire can be up to 4,000.
Oh my God.
And so it doesn't take very long for it to just destroy the substructure that makes up the rig and the substructure that the derrick sits on top of. I mean, I've seen oil fires so hot that the derrick will stay stood up for 8 hours, and then I've seen wells that the derrick will fall in 2 hours.
Oh my God, it just completely melts at that temperature.
It's standing tall and proud, and then it starts to kind of wilt, and then it'll get a little kinky, and then there'll be a big groan. It'll just kind of go, oh, and then fall.
It can't. I mean, at that temperature. So if that kind of infrastructure is melting between 2 hours, 8 hours, how does a human survive in front of that?
Lots of water.
Lots of water.
Water is our friend. When you work on an oil well fire, you have to stay wet constantly because water keeps you cool. It keeps you from burning your skin. So it's not unusual if you're working on a fire to stay constantly deluged for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, just water. We have water monitors that are spraying us
Okay,
to
I've
keep us
seen some
cool.
videos with
Yeah.
the water coming out.
So
That's just constant, and trucks are just being pulled in with water constantly?
well,
Or?
the first thing you do when you in a big fire is you have to get a gigantic source of water. So before you even start working on the fire, you have to dig big pits and line those pits and fill them full of water because you don't want to start the job and then run out of water. And so often you can truck the water in, and it might take 3 or 4 days just to get ready to start working on a fire because you have to
Wow.
have hundreds of millions of gallons of water before you even get started. So
And the whole time, the gas and the oil is just continuing to go.
yeah, I mean, there's things that we can do to get ready. We're putting our equipment together, but mostly we're waiting on water. We're waiting on water to be pumped. We'll solicit water from nearby ranchers, or we're not opposed to using salt water at all. We just need lots of water.
And that just keeps spewing, and how does that work? So y'all just every once in a while you come back, make sure you stay soaked, and does that keep you are you still really hot when you're staying soaked, or?
Can be hot. Besides water, one of the favorite things an oil well firefighter uses is just a simple piece of corrugated tin.
Tin?
Like you'd see on a barn roof.
Like aluminum foil? Like
Sort
aluminum?
of, but it's corrugated tin. The sheets are 4 feet wide and 8 feet tall, and you can build a little handle on the back of them so you can put your arm up in the handle.
And the handle's it can't be made of tin. That would burn you.
No, it's made out of wood.
It's made out of wood.
Out of 2x4.
Okay.
And you can keep this sheet of tin between you and the fire. And if you're getting water poured on you constantly, I can get from here to that wall to a 3,000-degree fire. And actually, yeah.
I guess that's why we use aluminum for cooking, right?
Yeah.
A whole derrick, a whole drilling rig can totally melt, but the tin will
The tin
will stay intact.
It reflects the heat.
Yeah.
And it's a remarkable, simple tool that was used back in the early 1900s, even before then, around oil well fires, and we still use it today. It's one of the first things that shows up on a job site is tin, because you have to wrap everything in tin to keep it from melting. Wow. If you have water pumps and water monitors, you have to build stands around your water monitor that will block the heat.
So it's a shield for everything.
It's a shield for everything. If you're using a bulldozer to start dragging away pieces of the rig, we wrap the bulldozer in tin so the dozer operator doesn't get nervous and freak out. And so he can back into the fire and stay fairly protected with the tin. So tin and water are our two best friends. And
so you're trying to stay wet the whole time to stay cool. What's some of the gear that you wear? What's that made of?
It's just cotton coveralls.
Just cotton coveralls.
It's a big misnomer that people think that we wear asbestos suits or the big bulky jackets that you'd see the New York Fire Department wear. I don't do that because then you can't stay wet. You want to be as wet as possible because that's how you stay cool. So we would wear a pair of cotton coveralls with long sleeves, and we'd wear long underwear underneath because you don't want any skin exposed.
Okay, so you guys are trying to cover everything.
Everything
hands,
has
face,
to be.
Everything.
You wear gloves. You don't want any skin exposed, so you cover your face with masks and bandanas, and you put goggles on, and you wear tin hard hats.
That's right, because most hard hats are plastic.
Can't wear plastic.
It'll melt into your head.
Melt on your head and cook your brain. Yeah. So a tin hard hat is really your best protection because you can always keep your head down and keep the tin working in your behalf to protect
Shield
your face.
your face, yeah.
And then you can kind of pick your head up and look and see what needs to be done and put it down again and pick it up again. But the tin hard hat is very important. So it's very simple. The key is just staying cool, staying wet, using tin as much as possible.
What are the goggles made of?
Just glass. Lots of guys just wear sunglasses. But you have to protect your eyes because it's easy to get your eyes burned.
Yeah, it's probably easier than skin even to burn, I would think.
Yeah. And then, one of the things I always read, Adair was a very fair complected man. His hair was red.
Oh, okay.
So he was a redheaded guy.
Yeah.
And he was always very careful about being
He'd be
around
the first to get
fires.
Yeah.
But over the years, the last time I saw him a few years before he died, his face was so badly burned you could hardly recognize it. And that was doing what he could to protect it. But he was fair skinned. So
imagine after so many blowouts, no matter how much you protect, there's going to be some damage
he was
done.
on thousands of them, and his skin was badly burned. But Boots and Coots took better care of themselves, I think, over the years, and they weren't as fair complected as Red. But
they probably learned from him.
It's easy to get burned if you. I have a burn on my hand from expanded. You see the scars?
Yeah.
Just stupid.
What is that? Just from grabbing
It's expanded metal.
Oh, wow.
That I put my hand down on a rig floor that was hot, and I burned through my glove, which was just.
I mean, it must be hard to remember where you can and can't move because everything is 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 degrees.
And you can't see often. Often the location is covered in water from us spraying ourselves with water. Often the location is covered in oil and drilling mud. And I think one of the closest times I've ever came to making a really big mistake was in West Texas. I was on a job one time, and the fire was all spread out. It was blowing in 4 different directions. It was making oil. The whole location was full of oil. And we were in really close, trying to get ready to do something, and I almost stepped in a hole.
Oh.
And the hole was probably 10 feet deep. It was cut out from all the gas, and it was full of oil. And I forgot. And I went to take a step, and I probably would have gone in the hole, but my buddy behind me grabbed me by the nape of the neck and pulled me back. And
wow, because you can't hear each other. It's so loud out there.
No, you can't
with
hear
the spewing water and the flames and everything, right?
He ate my ass out later in the day. But
so he just did this. I think you had told me before. It's like what is it, like multiple jet engines? You just can hear it from.
Oh, you can't hear. You can't hear yourself talk 100 yards from a big blowing well.
Yeah.
So when you're in close and you're working, if there's 2 or 3 of you working on the well, there's no talking to each other. You sort of have to learn sign language and understand what's happening and look at the man's expression, and he'll tell you what's going to happen and what you need to do by proper sign language, but there's no talking to each other about that. So this man Joe Carpenter, who was a great man, I'd have boiled in that hot oil.
He's the one that pulled you by the nape of the neck.
Yeah.
Back.
And all he did was this, and he pointed down in the hole, and I went, oh, shit, like that.
Yeah.
And that was the end of it for the day. But boy, like I said, when we got back to the hotel, I got He ate my
Let me ask
soda.
you this. I've seen footage of hellfighters throwing flames at a spewing well. To most people, that looks insane. Why are you throwing fire at something so flammable? What's actually happening? What's the purpose of that?
Well, if these blowouts aren't burning, an oil well fire takes three things to burn. It takes fuel, it takes air, and it takes an ignition source. So if the well is not on fire, usually the fuel source is still blowing, and it's either gas or oil and gas, or oil and water and gas. It's all still blowing real high in the sky, and it's making a mess. And if you're days away from being able to move the rig away completely and cap the well properly, you either leave this mess occurring or you set the well on fire and burn the fuel source up. And so a lot of times, that's one of the things that I'm most proud of about my career as a well control expert is the care we had for the environment. Is when you get hard to cap a well as fast as you can because nobody wants to
Money spewing. Yeah.
They're spending a lot of money to have us out there to do this work. They're losing money in product and fuel. But it's also, it makes a horrendous mess. And so we're there to try to mitigate this mess as fast as we can. Particularly if it's near water or over water, offshore, going into the sea. We want to cap that well as fast as we can to keep from harming wildlife.
And so
birdlife.
the flame helps with that?
Yeah. So if you're a days away from being able to cap the well, a lot of times the best way to eliminate all that mess that's being made and protect the environment is just go in there and set the well on fire. So probably some of the videos you've seen, you'll see some hands that they'll shoot a flare gun into a blowing well, or they'll wet some rags in a 5-gallon can of diesel and set it on fire and try to throw it out there and get it. So that's what they're doing is they're really trying to lessen the environmental harm the best they can. And then when the time comes to put the fire out, we can usually do that with water. So if one morning we need to get in real close and do some work, we can actually put the fire out and not be as hot. And then that evening when we're going back to the hotel to rest for the next day, we'll put it on fire and that sort of thing.
Wow.
And then a lot of wells also make a very toxic gas.
That you can't see. I mean, gas
you can't see the gas. Well, you can see it blowing out of the well, but you can't know that it's toxic and what its H2S content is. H2S stands for hydrogen sulfide gas, and it's at certain parts per million. It's deadly.
Oh wow!
It'll kill a well control hand instantly, and has many times.
Oh my goodness!
So a well that's not on fire and blowing H2S is a very dangerous situation for everybody working near the well. People that live in homes miles downwind, they can smell this H2S and they're in harm's way. So
by lighting it on fire, you're dissipating that toxic gas.
That's right. And it's not near as toxic. It's not harmful.
Wow.
Good chance nobody's going to get poisoned by H2S. So when you see people set wells on fire, that's usually what they're doing.
Well, it looks real badass, but there's a method to the madness.
Well, it's badass. It makes you feel kind of badass, but if you are standing too close and you shoot a flare gun or throw
Oh,
a rag up there and it catches fire, you
better
better
be
be
running. Better be ready with the 10.
you better be turning your back and set to run away for sure. Yeah, yeah.
So you've worked fires across the globe, some of the biggest blowouts in history. What do you remember about those jobs?
Oh, I think some of the places I got to go to. Um, I've been almost everywhere in the world. There's an oil well. I've been not everywhere, but I've never gotten to go to Russia. I always wanted to go to Russia, but I've been all over South America and Canada and Australia and a little bit to the Middle East, and so I remember the places most of all. I got to see parts of the world that I would have never seen before, and we always tried to enjoy that when the job was over, when we finally capped the well and were released and headed back to Houston. We would always take a couple of days and
we made it through. Let's get shit-faced in this foreign place.
And then go see some part of the country that you wouldn't otherwise get to see.
Yeah.
I have a photograph that in my office that's very dear to me of my best friend and Coots. They were on a job in Egypt, and when the job was over, they went and rode camels.
Oh, how fun!
And they dressed up in all the garb, and they had they looked like Bedouins, and they were riding the camels.
They went from coveralls to the different kind of cotton to keep them warm.
They got their pictures taken on camels, and it's quite extraordinary, and I love both those photographs. So,
now having seen some of the biggest blowouts in history, I believe Kuwait was the biggest blowout. That was over 700 wells. When you arrived there, what was that site like?
Well, they were production wells.
Okay.
And it's important to separate and recognize that a production well doesn't have a rig on it.
Oh, okay.
So what the Iraqis did before they fled Kuwait is they went around to all these wellheads, and they would wrap the wellheads with C4 explosives.
Oh my goodness!
And then they would back off, and they would set them,
yeah.
And it would blow the wellhead off and set the well on fire. So Kuwait was magnificent to look at and see because there were so many wells on fire. It was the country was virtually the first 3 months. The country was covered in black
Just
smoke.
The sky was black.
Even working during the day, it was like working at night. But in reality, because Kuwait was production wells, they were pretty easy to cap. And so most of them were, some were more difficult. Had the Iraqis put the C4 explosives in the right place, it would have taken us 3 or 4 years to put all those wells out. Instead,
3 or 4 years?
Yeah, instead
Wow.
They wrapped the C4 in the best place they could for well controlled experts to cap to. And so those 642 wells were all capped in just 7 months.
7 months. How long does a single well job typically take? It depends on the size of it, right?
On a production well like that, it would some really good crews, some really good teams like with Red Adair and Boots and Coots and Wall Well Control, they could cap 2 or 3 wells a day.
Oh, wow. So with that many teams, it just 7 months.
Just got really good at it. But now a drilling rig is a whole different story. When a drilling rig is melted around the wellhead, and they can take weeks and weeks and weeks to get ready to cap, and so it's a different beast. if you will.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you go on different jobs, I imagine, with different teams, but sometimes it's the same guys overlapping, and so you start to build a relationship. Tell me about the guys that you worked alongside with. Who were they?
Well, when I was with Boots and Coots Incorporated, which is a different company than it is today. Today, Boots and Coots is owned by Halliburton
Mm.
and is a big multi-international company with thousands of employees. And but when I was with Boots and Coots, there was only 8 of us.
Oh, okay. So it was a small
And
team.
it was a very small group. And that 8 included our dear secretary, Sharon, who was like our mother. She
Always worried about you.
She took care of all of us. She got our plane tickets, and so there was 8 of us, including Sharon, and we were all very close. Um, we would go on jobs with each other. A lot of times we would go on jobs. We would get used to being together, and a lead-off well control expert would choose his team, and he would choose somebody in the office to go with him, and then he would call me and say, "I would like for you to come and be with." So we were very close. We had parties together, and we shared this common bond with each other that we knew we could count on each other in a bad situation, and that's very important. You have to the man you're working with, you don't, when something bad happens, you don't want to see him running away. You want to see him there ready to pull you out and help you the best you can. And so there was a bond, a trust.
Were there any situations you remember where that happened, where you relied on each other and you were able to save each other's lives? You mentioned being pulled by the nape of your neck so that you
Yeah.
didn't fall into a 10-foot hole.
Yeah, I remember doing some dumb things sometimes that
Like what? What's a dumb
I
thing?
would make a mistake like falling in the hole, or
Oh, right.
I would put something where it shouldn't be, and it would get caught up in the blowout and go blow into the stratosphere. And I was learning. And so I would always get. We would always have a post-day meeting. We would go to the bar and get drunk, and the older guys that were helping me become a better well control hand, they would always help me and lecture me, and like I said, sometimes eat my ass out about it. But yeah, all the guys that I worked with were younger than I was, and they were always bigger than I was. My 2 best friends, David Thompson and Wayne Lansford, were David was 6'3" and weighed 230, and Wayne Lansford was 6'4" and weighed 240 or 50. And I always worried about them going down, and if I was going to be strong enough to pull them out of harm's way. And I would lay awake at night sometimes worried about that. I would never worry about getting hurt myself. I was always worried about doing the right thing for my teammates. But I got through all that, and fortunately, nothing ever happened where I had to do that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Were there any funny memories? Right, you guys obviously get to the bar that night and there's lessons learned.
Oh,
Were there any where you just give each other
Becky.
shit?
Oh, Becky. We don't
Of course.
have the time to talk about. We always had a good time. I mean, it was very dangerous, and I think that's the thing about well control is at the end of the day, I remember often coming back to the motel room at the end of the day and taking a shower and just collapsing on the bed and saying to myself, Jesus Christ, how did I survive that? Holy shit. I shouldn't have done this. I'm glad I did that. Wow. I'm lucky to be alive. Okay, let's go get drunk. And drinking was part of it. It was it was part of the camaraderie. It was part of the relaxation mode. It was kind of a celebration to be able to go to the bar and have a couple of drinks with the buddies you risked your life with all day and kid around and joke and
made it through.
And then the next morning we get up and go do it again. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I have many, many hilarious stories that I've tried to write them all down and keep them for history's sake. And
Well, on that note, if the viewers are curious about those stories and would like to learn more about the oil industry and some of Michael's adventures, visit oilystuff.com. So,
thank you, Becky.
Yeah, absolutely.
I write a lot of stories.
You do, and they're great. I've read them.
Thank you.
So you've collected through that experience and thereafter, you may have the largest collection of oil well firefighter footage in the world. Some of it has been shot in 8mm dating back to even the 1920s. How did that collection start?
Yes. Well, I was so proud to be a well control hand that and such a student of the history of the well control profession that I started writing the history. I researched a lot of the old oil well firefighters before Red and got to be friends with their family. One particular family in Houston, the father of oil well firefighting, the man that started all of it, was a man named Myron Kinley. And I got to be friends with his family after he passed away. And they had boxes and boxes of old 8mm film that was shot on old reels. And they let me copy all of it. And I copied all of it and put it in digital format. And these were jobs that Myron Kinley went around all over the world, in Iran, Iraq. It's amazing footage. I have footage of Myron Kinley working on a mule in the early 1920s. I have some footage of him getting hurt badly, and he finished the job on a mule. He rode the mule and pointed at people and told them what to do. And
not even a vehicle.
No. It was before. So I'm very protective of that. I have all that stashed away. And when I'm gone someday, I'll give that to a museum because it's quite extraordinary. And also, I got a lot of my friends in Kuwait took a lot of really good photographs of Kuwait that I collected over the years, and I gathered those photos up and printed them and framed them and put an exhibit together called the Fires of Kuwait. And I would load all these photographs in the back of my Suburban and drive to Jackson, Mississippi, or Houston, Texas, or New Mexico, and I would set this exhibit up for a week, and I'd show these photographs to people that had signage about what each well. So I enjoyed doing that because it was sharing an experience, and I eventually donated that exhibit to the George H. Bush Presidential Library in College Station.
Yeah.
I gave him all my photographs and all the signage, and that was a big thing to me. And I never met him, but this is the truth, that when I gave him the donation, it was such a big deal to him. He called my office
Oh, wow.
the ex-president of the United States. And my old secretary that's been with me for 45 years,
That Debbie?
Debbie, answered the phone and he said, "This is President George Bush. Is Mike there? I would like to speak to him." And Debbie said, "Oh, yeah, right."
Thought it was a scam call.
Said, "Come on, David, quit doing this. I know who you are." And
She thought it was your best friend, David.
yeah, and the president said, "No, this is really." So I did get to speak to him.
You did?
Oh, yes.
So she said, okay, and put it through.
Yes, and it was real. And there is an exhibit in his library in College Station that I actually curated about Kuwait that has my name on it, and I'm very proud of that.
I've been there. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah. I'm very, very proud of that.
As you should be.
So I write a lot of history about the well control profession, and I have a lot of old film, and I print a lot of that on my blog. And
I was going to say, you still actively contribute a lot of that knowledge and some of those
yeah,
photos and videos there on Oily Stuff.
A few weeks ago, I had a couple of young guys that work for Well Control. I introduced myself, and they both said, "Yeah, I know who you are. I read your stuff all the time. That's really cool. Actually, everything you write, I learned something from about the way the old guys used to do it." So anyway.
Yeah. As you continue to write Oily Stuff, what do you feel like is the message that you're sharing that hasn't been put on record yet about the oil industry?
Well, the well control industry is dying.
Mm.
Back in the good old days when Mother Earth still had some pressure, she's all pooped out now, pretty much. And
we've pooped her out, I think. We've done a lot of that.
She's all pooped out. But back in the old days, we would go on 100 jobs a year, maybe. And nowadays, most of the companies that are still in the well control business, if they go on 10 fires a year, it's really something. So I'm trying to keep the history alive, perpetuate the history, because it's so incredibly unique to me.
Yeah.
The men that were in it are so colorful. They were all quite famous. Red Adair was...
John Wayne played him in a movie, right?
Yes. Yes. It was a great movie, and
it's called Hellfighter.
Hellfighter,
right?
yes.
Yeah, Hellfighter.
I hope you'll see that because it's kind of hokey. It was done in 1963, but it's very much along the lines of Red Adair's life. And John Wayne played Red Adair, and my two bosses, Boots and Coots, helped stage all the fires, and they were very involved in the production of it. And Red and Boots and Coots and John Wayne got to be good friends, and they were always drinking together, and days they couldn't film, and it was there's a lot of really funny stories about all that, but it's good. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you've recently retired, and I would say retired, but you're still very consultative with Oily Stuff and with other requests that come in. But you've spent more than 60 years in the industry, and you've recently sold those companies. What did it feel like to finally maybe exhale a little bit and get to take a step back?
It's been hard.
Mm.
I essentially worked almost every day of my life since I was 13 years old, honestly. Well, I took a lot of time off and did some fun things, but it's been very hard for me to be retired, and I'm still kind of adjusting to it. And there are parts of the oil business that I don't miss at all. I don't miss having to stay up all night in the freezing rain or getting up when the phone rings and having to drive. I don't miss any of that.
You paid your dues there, though.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm I was thinking last night that I was probably 55, 60 years old before I learned how to sleep.
Really?
Yeah, because
it's just so routine to be up.
I was always getting up in the middle of the night, either drilling a well myself or going on a blowout or worried about something and couldn't sleep. And
wow.
So finally I'm learning how to sleep, but Yeah, I'm still drawn to it and pulled to it. I feel like I have a lot of knowledge that I still need to pass on, and the young man that bought all my production, um, I'm set to take care of him the best I can. I want to.
And what was it that made you pass that production on to him and not to a Chevron or a Conoco or because you had the opportunity to sell it to a big
Yeah,
box oil company, right?
yeah, because he reminded me of me.
Mm.
He's one of the finest young men I've ever known, and he's probably 35 or 36. He works harder than anybody. He works almost as hard as I did.
Not quite
He's
as much, but almost.
he's dedicated. He's honest. He's kind of the son that I never had. So I had a chance to sell all my oil and gas production for a lot more money than I did. But I remember asking him one time if what he wanted to do with his life when he knew I was getting ready to retire, and he said, "I want to do exactly what you did."
Mm.
And that was it for me. So I ended up
How many years had he worked for you?
he had worked for me for 12 years. He started when he was in his early 20s.
Michael, that's saying a lot because a lot of people in your position would have tried to take the extra dollar, but you sold with integrity.
Thank you for
Mhm.
that. He's the finest young man you'll ever meet, and he has a beautiful family. He's gonna be immensely successful, more so than I am. What's better than that? People gave me a chance, so I wanted to give him a chance.
And I love that. That's rare these days. It's very
So I
rare.
financed it, and he pays me every month, and I didn't wanna give it to him. I wanted him
You'd
to
earn
earn
it,
it.
yeah.
Uh, but he has problems, and he calls me, and he needs help, and I'm always there for him, and we're like family now. He
You
is
are.
my family, so
Yeah. Well, I would say be careful what you wish for because, you said retirement's been a little bit tough, but you're still very consultative because you do have a lot of expertise and knowledge to share. And if coming out of this, anyone is interested to contact Michael for some of that knowledge, again, oilystuff.com.
Well, thank you. No more physical labor if I can help it. But
Yeah.
sure, thank you for saying that,
Yeah.
yeah.
What do you want people to understand about the oil field, about the people who work it that they probably don't?
I think you said it perfectly in the very beginning. And I really compliment you for that, is that, we need it. It's nasty stuff, but the world needs it. We're headed in the right direction. We're moving towards wind and solar and, EVs. All of that is very important because we're running out of oil and gas. But until we get perfectly transitioned to electric vehicles, we're gonna need transportation fuel. We're gonna need oil and gas badly. And people that protest and say we don't need oil, we don't need fossil fuels, I think they need to kind of rethink that. And so, um, my my advice would be to be patient with us. My industry, we're getting better, we're getting cleaner, we're getting safer, but you still need us. And we're going to be there for you. We're going to try to go as long as we're going to make it last as long as we can and keep it as clean as possible. So,
What a blessing you are.
no, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you.
My final question for you is you are the highly recommended. You are someone highly recommended. So with that, what is one recommendation you would pass on? What is one thing that you could share from your life as a recommendation that you would want those watching to know?
Never quit. Never give up. Work hard. Um, Man, I've I've got more broken bones and survived cancer twice. I've just put your head down and work hard. And if you do and you treat people honorably, pay your bills, treat people the way you want to be treated, you're going to do great. You're going to have a good life, because it's not so much what you end up with. It's kind of how you came by it that really matters.
How you came by it is probably contributing to who you end up with, right?
That's right. That's right.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Becky.
I'm so glad you came in.
Thank you
Your life
very
is
much.
beautiful.
I am just
Thank you.
honored.
No, thank you for the support.
Oh,
Genuinely, your life story is incredible.
I wish you the best of success in whatever you do. You're very special to me.
So how do I know Mike Shellman? He's been my stepfather for most of my life. I've heard pieces of this story over the years at dinner tables, over a shuffleboard with a beer. In the quiet way, he sometimes mentions something and then doesn't. But I'd never asked him to tell it whole. Thank you for listening to it with me. If this conversation meant something to you, share it, and then go start one of your own. Talk to someone unexpected. Ask a question you normally wouldn't. You have no idea what story is sitting right next to you. I'm Becky Perry. This is The Highly Recommended.